or submit a film. Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Bi-Weekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
everyone. I think what would be great to start off, Bob does this all the time in BRC. It makes so much sense. Can we just go around the room and introduce ourselves? That'd be great. You want to start over here, Denise?
Yes, I'm Denise Short, and I'm the newly minted member of the Sustainability Advisory Committee. Should I say anything else? That's it.
That's terrific.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Nina Braun.
Chris Zigmont, I'm chair, and I'm at 22 Crestview Drive.
Jetna Palmer, I'm the vice chair. No idea how long we've been on this committee, but a long time. Still here. Yeah, live in town.
Ryan Jean of Hayes Park.
Thank you, everybody. And joining us over on the other side, we've got Dan Chartrand from the Select Board and Kristen Murphy, our sustainability planner here in town. Well, as we were just discussing before the meeting started, it's been a minute since we got together. We're going to kick off in a minute, and I think the last time we got together was June 11. We had switched to an every other month format in about a year ago, or last winter, in an effort to, address seating a quorum and just making things a little more convenient, as this is an all volunteer committee, and life has conspired to stretch that out a little bit, but we'll see how we do over the winter, because there's some really interesting and important things coming up on this and future agendas. I will take our next bullet, which would be public comments. I don't know if we've collected any electronically, Kristen?
Nope, nothing to report.
Great, and since I don't see any members of the public here, we will move to approving those meeting minutes, and please disregard the date on the top if you received it electronically. It says for 30/24, but it's actually the meeting minutes of June 11. Did anybody have any comments or questions on our last meeting's minutes?
So you're going to revise the
Yes. It was actually good to read them again, actually. So.
I have a comment. Revision is still willing to have someone come forth, and our sustainability coordinator has his presentation to get together.
Oh, great.
And ready to do that at any time.
That's terrific. What I think we should do is, before we break today, then why don't we see if we can put together a couple of date options for that. That'd be great. I think there's a lot to learn there.
Absolutely. Willing to get him involved as well with coordinating that timeline.
Terrific. Mm-hmm. Any other comments on our last meeting's minutes? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve these minutes?
I move to motion approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving these minutes, say aye. Aye. All right, these are approved, the June 11 meeting minutes, and we will revise the date for posterity and accuracy. All right. And I apologize. So the town supply computer operates completely opposite of how my great. So we have, and I foolishly left my CIP book at home. We have bullet number 4, it's to review the CIP proposals. We have a CIP capital investment project in the budget that's going before the Budget Recommendation Committee, which will then make recommendations to the Select Board. 2 of the CIP proposals are in general government, and they kind of square up nicely with this committee. And so what I thought would be great to do would be to review those 2 proposals tonight, and Kristen can walk us through those. And then if we're all game, I'd like to, if we all go through it and support it, I'd like to see our committee write a letter of support if we so if we are so moved to do so. So,
Great.
yeah.
So I'll start with the styrofoam recycling CIP submission, and I'll pass this around, Denise, because there's pictures on there this committee has.
And I apologize. I should have prepared copies of that. But
Okay, so this is an $80,000 CIP item. And what that would fund is basically a container, like one of those shipping containers, the metal shipping container, plus what's called a styrofoam densifier, a collection box, and then the work to connect it to electricity. What this would do is afford us the ability to collect styrofoam, packing styrofoam. It can then be put in the styrofoam densifier. It gets heated up and the air compressed out of it, and then it gets spit out in these coils that can be stored within the shipping container itself and then sold as a commodity. So the concept would be that, and I know I've talked about this before, but take advantage of every opportunity to talk through something. The concept would be the town would serve as sort of a hub community, accepting styrofoam from other local communities. We would stand to benefit because we can sell the styrofoam, the densified styrofoam, as a commodity. We also, in terms of our local waste management, would have less lightweight bulk filling up our containers, and therefore we would save in hauling costs because all of our containers would be heavier and not filled with bulky waste. And as Dan has pointed out in the past, this is also a huge benefit because it can extend the life of our landfills, right? It's better to get some of these things out of our landfills if we have another solution. And I think we can all, in this committee, agree maybe continuing to promote styrofoam really isn't our intent, but because it is out there and it is going in landfills, this is kind of a next best option. So like I said, this proposal, financially, it does turn out to be fairly profitable in terms of how densified styrofoam compares to other commodities that we sell. It's not quite as valuable as aluminum cans, but it is more valuable than, say, cardboard boxes. And so in terms of cost, it's $80,000, but there is a $50,000 grant available from Styrocycle or something along those, something named very similar to that. So really, it would be a $30,000 project if we were awarded that grant. I think it is a great opportunity for us to sort of, take charge in our region and be a leader that we know that Exeter can be. And so, yeah, it would be great if this committee would support that.
I think one of the things that's an important note here too, right now, Kristen, it's just Guilford that does this, right, in our state.
Yes.
So there's a huge opportunity down on the seacoast and our county, even neighboring counties, to be a hub for that. Obviously, as Kristen said, we don't want to promote the consumption of styrofoam, but let's face it, it's out there in so much packaging and electronics and things like that. And really, this is the best way. And it is of all the things we either recycle or collect for recycling, pretend to recycle, this and aluminum and cardboard are kind of it for as far as having a market for it. So I think there's a huge opportunity here. But I'd love to get everybody's feedback on this and see what they think.
Is it clean styrofoam? Is there a certain size it has to be?
Yeah, so it is not food products. You can't bring your coffee cups there, whatever. The CIP does have what numbers styrofoam?
6.
Styrofoam's
Yeah.
numbered?
Apparently, yeah. So it's number 6 expanded
Yes, yeah.
polystyrene packaging, but you could just envision that. That's really the stiff packing styrofoam that you get, when you buy electronics or other things. It does not, as far as I could tell in my research, I've not reached out yet to Guilford. It does not cover packing peanuts, for example, but a lot of those are
Starch
cornstarch.
now,
So
yeah.
Okay.
sure a couple questions have come up like this before.
Yeah.
But in terms of like estimated ROI and like, do we have a place that is interested in the end product?
So because we have modeled this at Guilford, she has done a ton of documentation for her efforts, so we know that it is a marketable product. In terms of return on investment, I don't have an answer
Yeah.
for that. It's a $30,000 investment if we
Right.
got that grant. You can, according to her numbers, you can sell it for $750 a ton. And so in the first 6 months that Guilford was running it, it was $4,500 to $5,000 in revenue.
Wonderful.
So,
That's the
there's some
number. That's the number I was
extrapolation that I
looking
guess
for.
you can
You
do
know.
from that, but.
The other, if I could.
Yeah, please.
The other return on investment on this isn't just the sale of the commodity. Between HelpSy and the compost program, and now if this styrofoam program were to go through, we're starting to cut into our solid waste stream, which costs
Yeah.
the town money
Yeah.
to throw that stuff in a landfill. It's not just saving landfill space, it's also saving taxpayer dollars ultimately if we can segment out enough things and really start to reduce our stream, we reduce our solid waste costs. So that's an ROI as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Long-term.
Absolutely, and the more we do things like this in town, the more Exeter becomes sort of a hub like that, not just this, but the HelpSy program and stuff like that as well.
So is there, so there isn't a cost to another town bringing in the styrofoam to us?
No.
There wouldn't be?
No.
Right. So is there, as somebody who just had a small bathroom renovated and got a lot of styrofoam in my barn at the moment, sitting, is there a way, sort of, if we did get down the line, I'm just sort of thinking ahead, like, you have your dumpsters, whatever, where people throw things out, and of working with those companies as well to get the styrofoam out of the dumpsters and get them to recycle. I'm just sort of thinking ahead.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think, I think the challenges to this are changing habits, right? That's always our biggest hurdle is changing habits, keeping things out of the blue bags or however else you handle it. We've talked about working with both high schools in town for when they do electronic drives and things like that to set up a styrofoam collection. The other challenge with this, just like you went through with your bathroom renovation, is it's not easy to transport. It's lightweight, it blows away. To bring a lot of it, it just takes a lot of space. But I think the thing is that because folks are already dealing with it somehow, we just have to be as proactive as possible if this does go through and we do acquire this. And I think the way to start is just to work on collection, to transport to Guilford, start training up our community to collect this stuff and sequester it from their trash now, so that when we do come online, if it should pass, then we're kind of trained up for that.
Yeah, and I think also education, like, if people are doing up their homes, right, and they get a dumpster in to get rid of all the construction, then try and make them realise that just remove the styrofoam out of it.
Yeah.
Because it will help them because they can get more rubbish through, declutter even
Sure.
more.
Yeah.
But I think a good sort of education awareness would be great.
Agreed.
And I think the timing is really good for this because as part of other CIP components, there is a plan to sort of restructure the transfer station. And so, people are going to be learning how it's reorganized, and I think it'll be a good opportunity for us to then build in awareness of this through that process.
And also having the new solar array there as well, the power opportunity is great as well. So I don't know if we have to go back and rebuy it from the sale of it or whatever, but just, knowing that we're going to continue to push for generating more is great. And, and what Dan had mentioned before too, it's a topic on here. I know our solid waste subcommittee, is digging into this too. I'm certain that so many of our townspeople don't really realize just how much money goes into solid waste and our recycling cartage every single year, and it goes up. It went up again, and guess what? It never goes down, right? So the only way to get it to go down is to put less in. So I think I'm very fond of this project because I think it pays in myriad ways. So hopefully we can get to that point. How about over here? Do we have any comments or thoughts?
I have a question. Is there a way to find out, or do we know if any other town is pursuing this same idea? Because when you say will be a regional
Yeah.
hub, I mean,
So actually yes, and I don't believe anyone is.
Yeah.
There was I think it's SEDS, and I don't know what it stands for, that Darren is involved with, something economic
Southeast
development.
Development.
Economic Development
Yeah.
Society, whatever, consortium of economic development organizations in the Seacoast region.
Yep.
And they actually brought the Director of Public Works from Guilford to provide a presentation about it, and they were really hoping to sort of promote one community to do this, and no one stepped up. I was the only one who signed up saying, I want to attend the webinar and I want to be a part of that.
Cool.
And so it does not sound like there's another community poised to pull the trigger on this. Guilford has done a ton of outreach for this. She's presented to multiple planning commissions, and so far, no. I did reach out to Rockingham Planning Commission, and they're excited to partner with us to promote it, but also did not indicate that another community was doing the same thing. So I think
Yeah.
we're in a good spot.
and how long has Guilford had it?
Not super long. I think it started in 2019. And so there's that whole struggle of like, what do you call, so I think we're really only getting real values now,
Yeah.
Sure.
so.
Question,
Please, go
sorry.
ahead. Go, go.
Will other towns be allowed to come into our transfer station for their styrofoam?
Yeah, so the way that Guilford works it's by appointment, so you can't, it's not just, residents. Other communities do kind of a collection event, like we'll talk about for Exeter later tonight, but they make an appointment, that way Guilford, or in our case, Exeter, could staff up and be sure we don't have all this bulky material sitting around, so we know that there'll be this bulk processing need coming up, and so there's a way to control that. But, it will take some people involvement for that process. Public Works seems to think they can handle and manage the program through their own existing staff, so no additional people. So far, I think we're poised to be successful. I've not really heard any other challenges that I don't think are surmountable.
I'm sure it was covered, and the couple times we talked about this. Do we know how many municipalities Guilford was accepting? Like how many towns how many towns did it take to get to her tonnage that she was able to sell?
So she had, I do have that. I don't think I have it with me tonight, though.
That's okay. I guess my feeling on that, the thought behind the question was, even if this spreads like wildfire and 5 towns get it, I think it's still a super viable thing, and it just means that, because even if these 2 towns have it, there's still going to be 95% of the polystyrene going into the trash anyway. So, I'm not worried about getting beaten and losing the opportunity. I think it's one of those. It's why there's a Burger King across the street from McDonald's. It's just more awareness, more people, just more burger eaters to the corner. And if more towns around the state get on board, it's a win for everybody. So. Any other comments or questions or challenges to the idea? So in the BRC meeting this past Friday was the general government meeting, which I missed, unfortunately, I was away. But this was discussed briefly. There'll be a CIP, an all CIP meeting at the end of the budget cycle, right before they present to the select board, where this will be kind of covered more in depth, and the budget community will have a chance to go through it and make their recommendations in final to the board. And I'd love to, if we're game, I'll take a vote in a minute to make sure that package moves forward with a letter of support from us if we're game. But I want to make sure everybody's got their thoughts and questions and concerns kind of aired before we move forward to that. Anybody else have any other thoughts or questions?
My only other thought would be to make it successful and to sort of just show that our support in terms of the benefits of it being sort of a sustainability practice would be to just do an outline of how we would do presentations to local towns for their town, and then encourage those towns to have a drive, and say, this would help, and then, so that it's consistent throughout the year in terms of the equipment, and not just sort of sitting idle, in February, that
Right.
there is, and keep the momentum going, so that, we are targeting all the surrounding towns and really encouraging them to encourage their residents to take the styrofoam, and bring it, collect and bring it over to Exeter. So I think because that would probably give us an additional sort of a program to make sure that the rate of return or whatever in terms of the 80K, is met. A lot quicker.
Yeah, so really, the point, what you're pointing out is the failure point, where this falls apart is if we aren't successful and having consistency and having people drop off and or collect from other towns to get enough throughput to, it's $30,000, but we don't want to take that
Yeah.
30 years to pay off. We'd like to
Yeah.
pay that off in a couple of years, so yeah.
So doing those presentations would be key, I think, to the neighbouring towns and going, I don't know, would we have a radius in which we want to sort of contain it within, or whether we're going to say, okay, well, we'll just open it up to whoever, even across, I don't know, can you go across the state line? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Interstate trafficking of,
Styrofoam.
I think a lot of that we'll have to sort out, I
Right.
mean, initially we'd want to, I would think there's no reason to turn anyone away unless it's, preventing a nearby community, if we're already, or exceeding our capacity to
Right.
process. And so I think we'll have to just kind of test the waters
Yeah.
and see how that rolls. In terms of outreach to other towns, like I mentioned, Tim Roach with Rockingham Planning Commission is very excited about this program. He's really interested in promoting it and helping us through that process. So I think we have the right players
Yeah.
involved.
That's great. All right, if there aren't any other questions about that, I'll put forward a motion to ask that the Sustainability Advisory Committee draft and submit a letter of support for the styrofoam recycling CIP item. And that's my motion, if I can get a second.
I second.
All in favor of SAC giving a letter of support to the CIP item, say aye.
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 All against, say nay. All right. It passes. We'll put together a letter. We'll circulate a draft outside of, because I think it'll be 2 months before we meet again, but I might encourage you to join me before then, but we'll get a letter circulated and then signed and be ready for the CIP night at BRC. So, great, thank you.
Great.
Speaking of CIP items, yeah.
So then the other item that is before, in the CIP is a public electric vehicle charging station. And so what we're proposing is a 4-port level 2 charger in the Water Street parking lot at the Bow Street end. So it's 4 ports, two units, 4 vehicles can be charged at once. We picked that area because of a number of reasons: proximity to downtown, because we want to promote it as walkable to downtown. Obviously, the more convenient it is, the more likely it is to be used. But also, we have some great utilization rates from the downtown parking study. And the space that we were looking at currently has a very wide island. It's a grassy island at the moment, and so the thought was you could shrink it up and really only lose 2 spaces to be able to charge 4 vehicles. The budget, well, I'll get into that in a minute. So quite a bit of work went into the site selection. We had Revision Energy come out and give quotes to several different locations. There were cheaper options, I'll be honest, but none of them had that walkable factor. And so having a cheaper option that you're not having people charge really doesn't serve you in the long run. So this is the site that we selected. The project costs are $120,000. And there is some ways to hopefully recuperate some of that cost. As you know, the Inflation Reduction Act has a 30% tax incentive, so municipalities are now eligible for this 30% tax rebate, basically. There is also the Charging Fueling Infrastructure Grant, which is Federal Department of Transportation. The state of New Hampshire was filing an application to secure some funds to bring them into the state. And thankfully, with our partnerships with Rockingham Planning Commission and Clean Energy New Hampshire through the Circuit Rider program, they reached out to us and said, hey, what do you have for projects? And Katrin, who's with Clean Energy New Hampshire, she's our local Seacoast Circuit Rider, worked with me hand in hand to refine our proposal, make sure it met all of the Charging Fueling Infrastructure Grant criteria. That was submitted to the state for them to use in their application to the feds. That doesn't guarantee that we'll get the grant, but we know our project has been vetted and meets the criteria. So we have that benefit. And it's a huge amount of money. It's 80% project cost. So it's a substantial chunk of what the expense would be. So I'm very hopeful the state gets that grant and then we can then apply for the funds. So return of investment came up in the budget recommendations subcommittee as well as the full committee. And it's really challenging to put together a return on investment because there's so many, I didn't realize how many variables there are in terms of electric vehicle charging. But they took a baseline, and that is assuming we get the 30% investment tax credit, because we think that's basically a shoe-in. Assuming a 10% utilization rate, which is each of the 4 chargers get used only 2.5 hours a day, which I think we can exceed because we have some residential properties nearby the downtown. Sorry, what else? And then a proposed rate structure of 35 cents per kilowatt hour with a $50 user fee. So you pay 50 cent user fee. Chris, your eyes were like, whoa. No, but
It's not gonna work.
$50. No, 50 cent user fee. So, you charge in for 5 minutes, you're paying 50 cents, or you plus the kilowatt hour rate. The beauty of this proposal is we are including a model where the town will own these units, but maintenance is provided for. We have a contract to cover that, but we also receive and exchange reports on ongoing usage and have the ability to modify those rates. So, we can incentivize them by lowering the cost, or, if we find that we have the corner of the market on EV charging, we can bump them up a bit and get a faster return on investment. There were a ton of questions about this, and I think a part of that is a learning curve, but I think that there will be some resistance to this project proposal. So
At the BRC.
At the BRC, yeah. And so I think the 18th is the well, I should look at you, Chris. I believe the 18th at
Yeah.
6:30 is the PM budget recommendation CIP portion of the project.
My sense was maybe not resistance, but an inclination to scrub it hard
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
Budget Recommendation Committee. So
And I think,
I didn't read that they were necessarily against it, but they were really going to work it
Yeah.
through.
well, I think we didn't have, because the financial modeling that you came up with came a little after the initial discussions too, so we didn't even really have those numbers yet, so. And being on the General Government Subcommittee, we did talk it through, and, some of the feedback we had heard as well is that there's a perception right now among some folks that EVs are for the well-to-do, that they're so expensive, and that it's really catering to a class of society that doesn't serve the broader public. And my encouragement would be, and I mentioned this in my subcommittee as well, is that I think we're not looking for solving a problem today. We're looking as far down the road as possible. And, EVs and plug-in hybrids are getting more and more affordable, and there's a big effort to do so. And it's a chicken and egg thing. If you have no place to charge it, you're not going to see the proliferation of them. If you populate more of these things, it's great. The fact that we get to, pay this off with fees. There's no public charging station that's free. I have an app on my phone when I travel. I always rent an EV when I can, and I pay for it. You pay for it. And so in this instance, the revenues, the nets come to us. So I think my feeling is that it's sort of our responsibility to bring as many environmentally conscious people to town in their vehicle and reward them for doing so by giving them an opportunity to not have range anxiety, to know that they can go shopping downtown in the winter and be plugged in and stuff like that. But again, I think that you're right. As Dan had mentioned, it's going to get a lot of scrutiny for sure.
Yeah. And it was like a homework list, I guess, is how I walked out of there.
I found it
rightly
to be a
so,
very
yeah.
positive exchange, but they're going to scrub it because that's the nature of the Budget Recommendation Committee.
And the beauty of the process is, I didn't mean to speak over you.
Yeah.
The beauty of the process is, we talked about it, right? So I have the list of questions and concerns that they have, so that when we have the full CIP presentation, I'll have an opportunity to answer a lot of those questions. So, also the nitty and gritty of like, whose department is overseeing this? There are some big questions that we need to be prepared to answer, so.
Yeah, the BRC process is always vigorous. It's always helpful, I find. It's always ends well, no matter what the decision is. The process is, good, and it yields a good result. I just think the trend lines in this town really are pointing towards having something like this, not just because of tourism from the surrounding area, but also you're going to have more parents of PA kids that are going to need this facility. You're also picking up more and more apartments, rental units in the town. Not all those are going to accommodate folks with charging completely. I know the latest mill project on Chestnut has some.
Yeah.
Whether it's enough to accommodate, where that's going to go in the future. I just think the trend lines are really solid for having something like this in our town, our downtown, town-owned parking lot. But we can make that case at the BRC.
Agreed. Kristen might know, Ryan might know, y'all might know, what geographically to the Water Street parking lot, what's the next closest set of chargers?
Exeter Inn,
I'm sorry.
Exeter Inn.
Yeah.
not the bandstand, the one at the Lincoln Street, Linden Street, Pine Street.
At the roundabout.
At the roundabout that doesn't exist, yeah, at the roundabout.
And then there is
The one
one
where you
at
take your
the
legs.
Chinburg apartments that were built about 10 years ago.
Okay.
There's
They-
a bank. But those are for the use of residents
Right.
only, I assume.
I just noticed last week that there's some in the Planet Fitness parking lot
Those just
in
went in,
Stratham.
yeah.
Those just went in. I don't even know if they're active. I had a friend from out of town visiting me this summer, and she had rented a car at the airport in Manchester, and it was electric. And she definitely had range anxiety.
Sure.
And we ended up going over to the Walmart over in Seabrook. That was like the best one. I don't know why, like her car actually did not work at the Exeter Inn. We went there, and maybe it was user error, not knowing how to connect it up.
My
But-
experience has been that often they're broken. So the maintenance contract's a key part of this. Is I've been stuck
Yep.
in places where like I don't know how we're gonna get out of here.
I had another question, maybe not related. Zipcar, or anything like that. Is there anything like that in? I was just visualizing like zip cars that are electric that can be used in town. That, I mean, that's like a future thing. But thinking about people who don't want to own cars, and that would be a very cool thing. And
It's interesting. As the town kind of moves from somewhere just north of 15,000 people to probably by the next census, we're going to end up somewhere just south of 20,000. That, there are projections about that. Whether they come to pass or not, that'll be driven by economics as well. But if this town does kind of get to a $20,000 level, you're going to see more amenities like that show up. Because a lot of that's just driven by, population size.
yeah,
I think there's Zipcar options in the Portsmouth market. I don't know if there's anything else like that.
Yeah.
In any of the other seacoast towns, but at some point,
yeah.
as there's more population density, I think
Yep.
we can expect to see that.
EV charging is something that I know a little bit about, and a little bit biased on the topic. But at the place that I work, we have a very diverse level of people in terms of, wage status, things like that. So one of the things that you had brought up, Chris, was that electric vehicle ownership and hybrid ownership was looked at as a well-to-do commodity. One of the biggest changes that I've seen recently, a really good friend of mine was struggling with an unreliable gas car and was looking at alternatives working where we work. It is, an option for him to charge at work. We have solar on the roof. It's kind of like one of the benefits, you charge at work kind of deal. And he was really looking into it. And then with the amount of repairs that he was doing on his gas vehicle, it turned out that the monthly payment on a used Tesla, really nice car, 100,000 miles on it, he came in like $400 less than his most recent monthly bills on his used gas car, and went over to Green Wave, hung out with those guys for a while, was really looking at like a Chevy Bolt, an entry-level EV vehicle, and when he was kind of introduced to these options that he had, he was really impressed with the financials of these used EVs, where they have long lives. These batteries are drastically improved from the first-gen Priuses, etc. And it's not just about being super flashy. It really did make financial sense for this individual who is not the most well-to-do guy. We're all, blue-collar workers, electricians, and it's really interesting to see the kind of the mind shift where a lot of our employees are looking at EVs and hybrid trucks specifically as real options for them to kind of walk the walk while working in the industry and trying to, save the world, because that's the mission. So just a comment on that.
No, that's great, and I think, the example you gave, I mean, first of all, I think we could all agree revision's an early adopter hub, right? Let's
true.
say. But
That is true.
the example's great, and every day the population of used EVs grows, right? So the options are greater and greater and greater.
Absolutely.
No, and that's why I think the encouragement for both my colleagues here and for our letter and for the town is that it is a very forward-looking project, and if the feeling is at the moment it doesn't serve enough people, I think we really need to inform that sentiment with some fact and look forward. So,
Yeah, it won't take long.
yeah,
That's for
Agreed.
sure.
Do we have any data of any residents who have their own charging? Is this specific charging?
I have, up through the end of last year, permits that are issued for chargers. We have vehicle registrations, so we do have some of the local information. It's not exact, but it at least gives a sense for the number of vehicle charging privately that, that's been installed. And it's kind of shocking, but I don't, I think that's great information to share. I'm just struggling with how to present all of this in a nice package.
Yeah.
sure.
In a way. They did recommend, information sheets for both of these, so that could be a great way that we can include some data about that.
Yeah, and I think we have some time. So I did look that up while we were chatting, and the CIP night is Thursday, the 14th of November is the CIP night. Yeah, I think we could really sharpen our pencil on this and present. And the only thing I think is worth for the benefit of the town is to do some homework and try to find any municipality-oriented, sour grape stories, like, we put a bunch in and it didn't work out, or we were overwhelmed by private charging and we didn't make a nickel on it, or whatever. I just want to, hedge the argument a little bit and understand, both sides of the coin a little bit. But I don't even know how, other than asking Google to figure that out. But I would have to imagine other towns right around us have put town-owned chargers in, I would have to guess, so it might be worth a few phone calls there.
Yeah, so I did reach out to some local, Durham, Portsmouth, and Dover anyway, at least initially.
Newmarket has some
Okay, that's good to
at the
know.
library.
Okay.
Newmarket.
Yeah, so if you have more thoughts, feel free to funnel them my way. I'd love any and all information I can have.
Knowing what we know on this advisory committee, do you feel that you have enough information for a recommendation letter? Or do you feel that you want to learn more before you recommend? I'll start with you, Ryan.
I feel like I know what I need to know.
Likewise.
Likewise. Felix?
Yeah, I can't think of any reason not to recommend pursuing it. I mean, there's obviously still more details, but there's nothing that I know right now that seems like we shouldn't recommend it and support.
That was sort of a cheeky test vote, wasn't it?
Good Germany. I'm a supporter.
Okay.
I will be a supporter.
Terrific. Well, I will then make a motion for the Sustainability Advisory Committee to offer a letter of support to the Budget Recommendation Committee and then on to the Select Board in support of the town-owned EV charging stations. And so that's my motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
You guys want to arm wrestle that out, or how do you?
Ryan can take it.
I'll take this one.
You can take this one.
Okay. All in favor of this letter of support for EV charging, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. Okay, it passed. We'll offer a letter of support to BRC and eventually then the Select Board for EV charging. Yeah, and so I think we'll just, maybe Kristen will build a work back schedule from the 14th and just come up with building out materials for that. And
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's great. I'm excited for that. Okay, we talked about that. Then, feeding into that discussion, number 5 here is a local styrofoam drive discussion and planning. This is great because speaking to what we were chatting about before, I think it's already an issue, obviously. So an opportunity to get a collection point. Boy, in an ideal world, certainly partnering with other drives like electronics drives or hazardous waste or things like that are great. I have in my brain, it just needs to happen at a higher frequency, quarterly or something, or monthly might be too often to start, but certainly quarterly, because it does accumulate and no one wants it in their house, and then the frustration will build. It'll go in a blue bag and it'll be gone. For some reason, keeping extra cans of paint and some coolant around for a year is, it's not that disruptive, or it's less disruptive, to do the annual hazardous waste. Yeah, exactly. But we had floated a few different ideas. I'm of the belief that there's plenty of companies in town here that have box trucks that we can ask for some sponsorship or support on, because I think the challenge is when you collect this stuff, 100 pounds of styrofoam is a huge space, right? So we have to have some sort of collection capability. But to coordinate it with something else like electronics, or do you guys feel there's enough strength in it to make it a standalone? I don't know.
I think the hazardous waste is coming up, right?
It was this past Saturday.
Oh, so it's happened already. Okay, it's too late. And I think on that basis, I think we should just go for it for standalone. On the basis of frequency of the drive, I'm just sort of thinking it's okay for people who have space, right, in their homes or in their garages and so on. But with more and more sort of condos going up in town, I feel that there's probably those people will have no space. And so I think in light of just the change of sort of demographic and the way people living in this town is changing, that it would seem more practical to have a drive more often than not, or to have a space where people can just come and leave it. Right.
Yeah.
Well, is that how it will work at the transfer
Yeah,
station?
yeah, so there'll be a big box, kind of like a clothing donation box, that's a part of the package that we're purchasing.
Well,
But
yes.
in the meantime, if we're going to do Guildford, right?
Right.
I mean, I guess the timeline in terms of if this went through, what is the likelihood? I mean, what is the timeline we're looking at for Exeter getting the equipment?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So I think
But a part of me wants to divorce these two for a minute as well, where, it's going to be a warrant article and it'll survive on its merits, but I still think no matter what, we'd still want to do a styrofoam drive,
Yeah.
no matter, right?
Yeah.
So I almost want to have the initial discussion separate from that idea. If there's an opportunity to pre-plan for some infrastructure for that, great. But I think one of the challenges is just the cubic volume of this stuff. And I agree, the frequency matters, right?
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, there's, 200 new units going in Gateway, and, I mean, there's,
At some point, yeah.
there's more and more housing. Holidays are coming up, there's going to be plenty of styrofoam at holiday time, yay! And so there's an opportunity to give this a test run relatively soon. But yeah, I'm with you that I think, some kind of collection mechanism that's, if you miss the drive.
then there is
you
still somewhere.
Get up there and, and talk with DPW and see what, I mean, other than renting a container, a 20-foot container, which is relatively affordable to do, but again, budgets are budgets. What other sort of vessel can we imagine, or talk to them about in advance of getting this, if this should happen?
You mean, is there any existing space or vehicle or something that we could collect?
Yeah, I think that's really the challenge, right? Is that there's plenty of interest. It's two parts. One thing is collecting it here in town, and then the next challenge is getting it from, the less you move something, the better, right? So
Right.
why move it twice if you can move it once? So if we were to collect it in something, in a drive at least, to be the ideal to put it in the thing you're going to drive to Guilford in.
In truck, yeah.
So it's almost a separate issue than setting up an anytime drop-off point at the transfer station. They're almost two different paths, right?
So how about if we consider a time for when we want the first drive and do all the awareness and publicity for that? And then at the back end, just on the back of mind or whatever, sort of look at the options that they may be at the transfer station for a small container to be there for a while, for people who may have missed the drive to just sort of drop their styrofoam in. And then I was down at the transfer station the other day, and I know there's the one container with the electronics that go in there, and
Yeah, we should talk to them before we go
Yeah.
too far down the road.
yeah. But I'm just saying that
But if you want to do a drive and deliver it to Guilford, I would think the week between Christmas and New Year's would seem to be the obvious place to start.
First place to kick it off, yeah.
If you can muster the people power to pull that off in that week. Because that's when you're going to see the highest volume of styrofoam kicking around.
I did reach out to, so the high school has the environmental club, and we have 3 reps on the energy committee. I reached out to them to find out about their electronics recycling day, because I guess in the past was in November. They have not yet set their date, but they said they would be willing to work with us. If we set our date, great, we could, they could match dates. So the sooner we set a date, I think the more likely we could do both.
because they
together.
use a truck, right? So where do they? It'd be interesting to see where they get their truck from. It's a huge truck they use
I
in.
think it's a company they contract with.
Oh, okay.
That actually is their kind of back-end
Oh.
partner on that, I would assume.
Okay.
Yeah. Christmas falls in the middle of the week this year, a Wednesday. Yeah, I think you're right. I think if we could, combining with them would be great for be curious to get their feeling on holiday timing versus back to school timing. Yeah,
First week of January.
yeah. But too much later, people are like, to clean
No,
it up.
it's
from-
gone. Yeah,
it's
so-
gonna go in the blue bag.
But I'm just wondering, I don't know, like number of people may go away and all that kind of stuff, but between Christmas and New Year, I don't know. But the first week of January would be a good time, I think.
Yeah.
Despite snowstorm.
So I'll put this out there like, how do we chase this down? We presently have a subcommittee for solid waste. I want to talk about another one later on the agenda tonight, and then once you get too many subcommittees, it gets kind of hard to manage it. So is this something that we think there's value in the solid waste committee, since it's sort of an adjacent task to fold in?
Yeah.
I think the solid waste subcommittee has got a pretty long view right now. I think the renewal for waste management presently is 2027. My thinking would be if my subcommittee colleagues are down to fold that in there and work on it. Does that make sense to folks?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if that requires a vote. Probably doesn't. We'll just say yeah and do it. Okay.
Yes, just do it.
All right.
Get on with it.
So that makes sense. So yeah, so I think there's a couple great ideas here, a couple of paths to look at, and everything from the publicity to even working with Bob Glowacki and to explain why it's important, right? Why is this even a discussion? We can't take for granted that everybody understands even the value of this. So, and I mean the actual cash value. So, all right, we'll take that on. Great. All right, we're going to move on. Coastal Resilience Grant Award for Swayze Parkway. Kristen.
Yeah, so I applied for a grant and we received it. We're still negotiating the agreement components, but so that's why there hasn't been a whole lot of talk about it yet. The concept is we would hire a contractor, it's $18,000. We would bring in a consultant to meet with the community and facilitate sort of visioning process for Swayze Parkway. We know that Swayze Parkway is ongoing and regularly flooding. And so how do we continue to use this parkway, continue to maintain and make improvements like tree plantings, for example, as simple as that, but with the forethought that, we're accommodating the future conditions. And so the concept would be we would have a core team group that would work with this consultant, do some public engagement, identify desires and goals for that area, and come up with basically 3 conceptual designs that are then revetted to the public for feedback, so that we have a preferred alternative that could inform a future CIP submission, basically.
So is this to prevent it flooding?
No, I wouldn't say to prevent it flooding. So the concept is to identify the areas that do flood. Are there modifications or changes in how we use Swayze today, or modifications that we can do to it physically so that inundation is okay and not destroying what we're doing the rest of the time. Portsmouth, Prescott Park had an incredible proposal and design there. If you want to look at some examples, theirs was pretty complex because they have a huge investment there. And I'm not sure what our vision will be. It really kind of depends what the public wants to see down there, but we really need to start talking about this.
I guess my question, though, to come back on what Chetna was saying, looking back at the last master plan, there's a lot of discussion about sea level rise and freeboard requirements and things like that. And obviously, that's right along the same corridor. It's on the same estuary and river. That's going to continue to see higher and higher, water levels. Some of that thinking has to be prevention, right? And some of that has to be like we're talking about now, is sort of mitigating damage for that. Is the vision that this study will kind of make that work hand in hand with what else has to happen in town? Because that's my question, I guess. I don't know.
What
if
else
that's a good question.
has to happen in town in terms of?
And it just sea level rise and resiliency for the rest of Water Street and.
So this is very focused on a community space.
Okay.
In my mind, I would see, just to give some color to it, and I don't know because we haven't had the listening sessions or anything, but it is conceivable that you could redesign sections, and I'm not saying we're doing that, so
Sure.
I hesitate to say this publicly, but you could redesign sections of Swayze Parkway to accommodate a significant portion of that sea level rise. And
see.
so you're directing that flow to certain areas, but retaining some other areas. That
Okay.
could be one concept, but we also have, storm drains that can't outflow because they're inundated. And so if we have a storm, so there's a lot of components to it. The way we build it within the grant, this is strictly focused on Swayze Parkway. So yes, we do need to have some considerations for our infrastructure in all of our shoreline in Exeter, but this is really just focused on Swayze Parkway.
And the reason why I ask, and so that's great clarity, is that what you do in one place obviously has an impact on another. So it's mentally hard to get my head around the idea if we just have this and we do this
Yeah.
and we make some changes upstream, or downstream, but more concerned upstream, that it would have yet another impact on Swayze that we didn't necessarily design for, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yeah,
And also the housing
as well, yeah.
close by.
But yeah, okay, I get it, that's great. So we've applied, we've been awarded.
Yep.
And now, and so now, have we already selected, or we're working already with somebody to do the study, or?
No, so we're at the stage where we're negotiating the contract with the state, and once that's solidified, we have a meeting with them tomorrow morning. Once that's solidified, then we could, take it to the select board, get full approval, and take it to the next steps.
Super cool.
Before an RFP is published and a contractor selected.
Well, that's super exciting, actually, super cool.
And does that
No, go ahead.
affect the trustee of the Swayze?
Yeah, so they obviously are a partner in this. They've been a part of the discussions early on when I was applying, so they're very much engaged with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to loop back to your question about other parts of the shoreline along the river, some of which is private commercial property, some of which is also public property. I think we're only going to learn things by doing this
Sure.
in the Parkway. And we'll be able to apply it in other places or offer assistance to private property owners because of what we've learned.
Agreed, yeah.
So I think it's a great test case.
Yeah.
Great.
That's in our control, or sort of in our purview, yeah.
And it's a piece of common property that the town owns that has a tremendous emotional resonance
Sure.
with the town.
Yeah.
We've found that out over and over again over the last 10 years. It's amazing. It's a former landfill that was donated by Mr. Swayze and turned into a park, and now it's always been part of the river,
Right.
and the river is claiming it again.
Well, I've got one word for the whole project, gondolas.
Yeah, there you go.
God, do you
Steal something from Venice, right?
need anything in particular from this committee?
To
support or-
do it this time,
Okay.
but I do hope that there's participation from committee members moving forward for sure. Yeah.
That's great. No, I think it's great. And I'm sure I speak for everybody here. We're super thrilled with your champion work on all these things, and just I'm always amazed at all the cool things you're chasing down and doing. So again, thank you for that, and thanks for staying on top of it. Bullet 7 is propose a SAC subcommittee to partner with planning to meet the net zero promise of the 2024 warrant Article 4, which is the police and fire substation. If people remember the deliberative session before the warrant last year, for this year, there's a lot of discussion about making sure that, the CIP item went through with a building that was meant for 50 to 100 years, and there's a lot of discussion to make sure that we do the right thing and build for the future and make it as forward-looking as possible and as clean as possible. There's a lot of work going on, and in future weeks, we'll get Dave Sharples to come and give us a presentation, maybe an update when we're at a point to get an update to the committee. A couple things I thought would be valuable, because we relatively impassioned effort to help see that through on its second round of the warrant, was a commitment from the town to make a net zero building. Net zero means if you lined up 10 environmentalists, you get 10 different answers on what that actually means, right? There's a variety of different definitions. And there are some very strict definitions, basically that, whatever you build for building, you're generating as much or more energy than you're consuming, right? There are some also genuine physical science facts about the 1.9 acres that we have committed to the space there and the current state of technology. It is probably, from a generation perspective, not within the realm of current science to generate on that site the energy that, if it was cold storage, it'd be different probably, but it's a active police and fire department, which is very energy intensive. It's open 24/7. There's a lot of computers and a lot of machinery and a lot of, fire trucks get plugged in as soon as they get pulled in, and ambulances and things like that. So there's some realities. The upside is that we know we can build probably one of the best envelopes out there. So the construction side of the facility is, intended to be as state of the art as it can possibly be. But what I thought would be valuable when thinking about this and having had some conversations is it would be to partner with the planning department or put together a subcommittee to work and just, keep, it's going to be built over time. Things are going to, costs are, I've never seen costs go down in building in my experience. I'm not a builder, but they usually go up, and that puts pressure on things like this. So I think there'd be value in having a subcommittee to work arm in arm with the planning committee to stay apprised of it, present ideas and solutions and thinking on this to kind of keep it in the best interest of the public to meet the promise, if you know what I mean. So I'd love to put that out there for discussion, see what everybody has to say about that.
I'd be interested in being a part of something like that.
I was thinking of you when I thought of that.
Is Dave Sharples aware that we're discussing this?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I did chat with Dave quite a bit about this, yeah.
Great, awesome.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of the point guy.
Yeah, and he's been great. I mean, he's been really...
He has a real knack for the process. So.
Yeah, he does. And he's also, for people that don't know Dave well, he's a big champion for this stuff as well. He really believes in getting the most out of building as we possibly can and everything. He's got a real knack for this. So I feel super comfortable with that. But, projects are projects, right? So in the role of a sustainability advisory committee, that I really took to the thought was like, that is absolutely the role of this committee to stay apprised of it and keep our eyes wide open and present ideas as they come and just be part of the conversation. So I would love if Ryan, if you wanted to step forward and head up that subcommittee, and we can find a partner or two for you here, that'd be great.
I'd love to take that on. Would you be willing to make initial contacts with Dave and
absolutely
get me introduced and into the process?
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Who else has a passion for this? Would love to join us.
I would do that. I mean,
See?
I'm not on a subcommittee yet.
There you
and
go.
I feel like, yeah, and that interests me.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Dan, when we form subcommittees, what process do we need to do that? Do we just say it and do it, or do we need to bang a gavel? Or?
Take a vote and populate it with the vote.
Okay, great.
That would be my take on it. That way it's in the minutes.
Great.
Just wanted to say, Dave is already well-versed in working with an advisory committee on this project because he's been working with a facilities advisory committee.
Great.
Very fruitfully and with, great harmony. So it's going to be the same here.
Great.
He just is great at process. So you're
love
going to
it.
have a great experience.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to put forward a motion then to form a subcommittee for the SAC to, I don't know what we're going to call it, the warrant Article 4 subcommittee, or the net zero
Pretty
subcommittee.
catchy.
Yeah, it is. It kind of rolls around the tongue. Put forward a motion to form a subcommittee to work with the planning department on warrant Article 4. Can I get a second for that?
I'll second.
Terrific. All in favor of forming this subcommittee, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. Okay, we've formed a subcommittee. I would put forward a motion that Ryan Jean chair that subcommittee. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
All in favor of Ryan chairing the subcommittee for advisory on warrant Article 4, say aye.
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 All against, say nay. We have all ayes. Okay, there it is. Denise. Denise has volunteered to sit on that subcommittee. I put forward a motion to have Denise named to the subcommittee for warrant Article 4. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor of having Denise join Ryan on the subcommittee, please say aye.
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 All against? Great, there it is, subcommittee formed. And we can circle up, you guys can get together, circle up after as well. And we'll, start working on an outline, familiarize ourselves with the warrant article, and then we'll set up a meet and greet with Dave and, and go from there, build it up from there. And I think they're just getting to, I don't even think it's, have they selected a builder yet or anything? I don't think so.
They're down the road a ways on that.
Okay.
I know they have the terms always slip away from me. They have a project manager,
Yeah.
something like,
Okay.
or, yeah.
But
That's-
progress
that's-
is moving ahead. It's going, yeah.
They are, Dave has got that
Yeah.
going forward.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, but no ground has been broken. I think they might have cleared the lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Bullet 8, the window dressers measuring volunteers. I know we've talked about this probably a year's worth, right? It maybe goes back to the joint
Definitely
committee.
since April.
Since
Yeah.
April.
Maybe before that, in
Yeah.
February.
February, I think, yeah. They're still looking for volunteers.
Maybe one or two. Right now, they are taking orders through November 30th.
For residences.
For residents
okay.
to install window inserts. We have a goal of 200 inserts. That's kind of the goal that Window Dressers likes to promote. We're about halfway there. And so if you have, because everyone's schedule doesn't always align, it would be awesome if we could have backup measures. You probably wouldn't be required to go out that often, but if you're interested, I could connect you with Mark Lemus, who's on the zoning board. He's heading up the measuring. Basically, what you do is when someone orders a window insert, you go into their house, you measure, with a laser. It sounds pretty straightforward, so you're not even, taking rulers out. You talk to them about the install process and some space limitations. You check the windows for
Square.
and the computer spits out whether or not it's an appropriate window for a window insert based on how square it is and how much gap there could be.
Well, you
And
had
then
me
you-
at lasers. You put
Yeah.
my name down. Please
Yes.
forward my name along. I'll
Okay.
sign up as a backup measure.
Will do, yeah. And then, like I said, they are taking orders. Oh, so you actually become the face of this project because you're getting the quote for how much it's going to cost to install them, and you're the communicator with the homeowner saying, hey, this project will cost this much. Because Window Dressers is a nonprofit, a substantial component of that project is if someone can't afford the window inserts, they'll get them at low cost or potentially no cost. And so
great.
you're really the one there to kind of find out, are they someone who needs any assistance in paying? So Mark heads up a great team. There's a handful of people who are helping. I love that you have stepped up. That would be great. The other way this committee could help is by getting the word out. And so we need people to order more inserts. They're reusable. They're incredibly energy efficient, simple to install and pull out. There's a whole page dedicated to it on the town's website. If you go to the main page, there'll be right there under latest news. We have a bullet there, so it's front and center if you want to learn more information. In January, so the weekend of Martin Luther King weekend, we will have the town hall. We have the town hall booked, and I think it's the 18th through the 23rd. It will be almost a community barn raising style construction.
Oh, cool. So build them as a team.
So
yeah.
you build them as a team. So
Ah,
we'll
cool.
also be looking for volunteers for that effort. If you do order inserts, a portion of your time needs to be committed to help build them. So you build some of yours and some for
That's cool.
others as well.
Hence the
So
barn
it's a
rate.
really great program. We're excited to bring it to the community, and I would love your participation in any or all of those areas.
Kristen, review those dates for me again. So orders through November.
Orders through November 30th.
Okay, and then,
And then we'll be measuring up to, I think, I don't have the date, it's just early January.
Okay.
And then the build is January 18th through the, no, that's not right.
You said 18th through the 23rd.
Oh, I'm in February, that's why. January 18th through the 23rd.
okay, great.
Has this been featured in the community newsletter?
Yeah, it has. We have another one, we're trying to pepper it regularly. We have another one going out with the order deadline this Friday, I believe. And it was in the newspaper last week, I think it was.
Oh, cool.
So we're
Excellent.
trying to get the word out. It's really challenging to get these events and publicize this
Yeah.
stuff. So again, you see something on social media, like and share it, please. See some friends, mention it to them.
Yeah.
Any way you can help us get the word out, I would really appreciate it.
No, that's great. It's a great thing. Cool. Any questions on that? Our next bullet, solid waste subcommittee update. We just frankly have had no time to get together on the update. I did want to, dig a little deeper into the cost increase that came recently. Also wanted to look into, we owe some visibility to our recycling cartage as well, and trying to understand exactly what happens to it and where it goes, and find some transparencies there. We're not there yet, so we'll probably come back at the next meeting with a more solid update then. So we'll have to punt on 9. And then I want to open up to any other business. What other topics or concerns or questions do folks have?
Did we have a conclusion on pumpkin composting?
We haven't discussed it as a committee, so the question was, are we reaching out to Lainey Lou or promoting pumpkin composting?
Pumpkin.
Oh my goodness. At the transfer station. And I think at least a small group of us felt like, let's promote use of the transfer station.
Yeah.
And just promote composting other than an event.
Yeah, I think given the lead time and our meetings slipping and just the inability to promote it and all that, I agree. I think we maybe just want to work with Bob and the town on communication to promote it at the transfer station, and then work with DPW to make sure that we can handle I think the last 2 times we worked with Lady Lou, we overfilled her. She has a lot of bins. And, yeah, we wiped her out, so we want to make sure they're ready for the onslaught.
I'd
Yeah.
be happy to develop promotional stuff, and
Yeah, the good news is we've got a lot of the
Posters
data-rich information already, right? So it's that'd be great.
Is it possible to get some extra bins?
Yeah, that-
Right around that time?
Yeah,
we'll find that out.
and just to be able to pick. I don't know. I'm trying to remember the date for Lane and Lou's. Typically, it was like a week after Halloween or Halloween, something like that.
So Halloween's Thursday this year, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, we've always had it the following, whatever the next sort of, but
Yeah.
I think that first weekend is too soon to
Yeah.
Halloween, so probably the following.
Yeah, that Friday, Saturday when the transfer station
Well,
opened
the good
after.
news is transfer station's always there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Tip your pumpkin.
Yep. That's a good one. Thanks for bringing that up.
Actually, can I ask a question along those lines?
Please.
Where are we in terms of budgeting for the composting? I haven't looked at that line.
Yeah.
I will admit that I have not.
And
Dug
that's
in
a
on
great
that.
question. So we have budgeted for 5, so that's the additional bin for this upcoming year. We had a
And
generous.
that's
in the
that's been taken care
budget
of.
request. Yep,
And 5 is doing the job.
Yep.
Except maybe at Halloween.
yeah, and pizza boxes are a challenge, but it's working.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
working.
okay.
You know what's interesting, on that note, I've been meaning to bring this up at the meeting. IP International Paper, largest cardboard producer in the country, they actually have public information out that dirty pizza boxes are fine. I'm curious how we got to the point where we need to segregate our pizza boxes.
So we're really
Is that-
subject to waste management
Okay.
requirements, and, you know, whatever those requirements are is what
Yeah.
we promote as a municipality. So we heard from them that
Yeah.
they can't take greasy boxes, and so that's what we've been
Okay.
promoting. Yeah.
So what happens? They still get composted, right?
Yeah, we can compost them,
Yeah,
but as
you
far as
can compost
recycling, they
them.
would
Right,
take.
recycling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, all right. I was curious about that.
I did have one other item under
Please.
other business. So the Energy Committee, if you, is hosting on November 19th at the library in the evening from 6 to 7:30, a button-up workshop. And so this is a great program. You can go and you can learn all about, you know, energy efficient measures for your home. You can learn about alternatives for home heating and cooling, et cetera. We have a really great speaker coming. There will be a Zoom option available, hopefully, if we can, the speaker has a Zoom. If I can figure out the logistics of making that work, we'll also have the Zoom option. So that's November 19th from 6 to 7:30, and I will happily email around the flyer.
Cool.
But look for that as well on social media and the town's website. And just like with the other item, like and share and spread the word as much as you can.
For sure. That's great. That's a really good idea. I spelled pumpkin wrong. Any other topics or business to review or bring up?
You had mentioned maybe talking about a date
Yep.
for your visitor friend from Revision.
Yep, absolutely. And I can get in touch with him, see what his availability is for even our next meeting or meeting after, whatever.
Yeah, I guess I'd say it's part and parcel of what I was going to bring up, which is our next meeting. I know we've had a challenging late summer and fall. I know everybody's very, very busy. I feel like we do have a few things percolating on the agenda that I'd love to see us address sooner than later. I mean, certainly, I think we can, because we voted on it, we can get those support letters to the BRC without another meeting. But there are a few other things that I feel I'd love to see us not have to wait until, well, I think the challenge is if we just push ahead 2 months, we fall right into the holidays. I'd love to see us, find a middle ground between, the end of November and early December. Also, we're meeting on a Monday night tonight, right? It's Monday? And we've typically met on Tuesdays, and a lot of that historically has been dictated by availability of this room. But in the search to find this date, we discovered that Mondays weren't too bad, that had been a reasonable amount of Mondays available. But I guess first, whether we end up on Monday or Tuesday, which we'll have to find an open date, do we think we can pull off a 4 or 5 week from now before the holidays opportunity?
Chris, or Mr. Chair. So the select board's scheduled to meet on the 25th,
Of November.
which means the Monday on November 25th, which means the Monday on either side of that is currently open.
Terrific.
So you could go a week earlier on the 18th or a week later on December 2nd, depending on the availability of the committee members.
That's great. Given that, if you have your calendar handy, how does either the 18th or Monday the 2nd work for everybody?
Monday, the 2nd works for me.
Monday, the 2nd would be better.
Okay. Second, Ryan?
Agreed, the second works better for me.
All right.
No, I'm available for the 2nd.
That was my next question.
And our all-important staff
Yes.
support.
Kristen,
Yeah.
how does the 2nd look for you?
Yeah, I can do the second.
All right. Then I'd love to see us, if we can make that so. And I guess I'd also ask the
So
question.
we're, just so, sorry.
Yeah, go.
So we also have a couple people who are interviewing for this committee, just so that we're conveying the right timeframe and dates.
Mm-hmm.
Is the first Tuesday no longer was that a challenging time for the committee?
My
It's
yoga
fine.
schedule's changed. I teach on Tuesdays now.
Okay.
So
What's that? Tuesdays don't work?
work for me
Okay,
anymore.
okay,
So
all right.
So as long as we dodge the select board Monday's work, but it makes it a little more flexible which date,
Yep,
so we can't really say it's this.
okay. Okay.
Well, what I think might be valuable too, if we have a couple other people that are interviewing for the opportunity, is
revisit.
to revisit it and get their input on it as well. I mean, I think we're flexible enough at this point. We've gone through a long cycle of the Tuesdays, and things are changing, right? Things do change, and love to get their input on it.
Okay.
And if, but if we can put that flag in the ground for Monday the 2nd, that'd be fantastic. The other thing I'd raise, and maybe for this one, we'll leave it at 7 PM. I think it's among I think a lot of other committees meet at 6:30. I'm open, I'll meet at 10 PM, I don't really care. But I know you don't live next door. So, I'm also open to earlier as well if I think when that 7 PM was set, I think we're the only two original members left, right? Yeah, so, no, yeah, you remember, yeah, okay, so, I mean, but I know people have work schedules and family schedules and stuff as well, so be thinking about that. Maybe we'll leave it at 7 for one more time at December 2nd, and if the group feels that's still the best.
Yeah, no, personally, 7 works better
Okay,
for me
great.
than anything earlier.
Okay.
Just
I
getting
know it's
here
hard
from
to scramble to get,
Portsmouth
yep,
is-
exactly, you're coming out of Portsmouth as well,
Yeah.
so. Yeah, maybe that would be the best time, but Monday will work, the 2nd, you think?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right.
And I just don't want that to pass. That's great news that there's some other folks that are
Yeah.
potentially interested, so.
That's super exciting, actually, super exciting. And then we get to dig into all the quorum rules and stuff like that. I'm dying to figure out exactly how that works and why, so, for another time. All right, if there are no other questions, any other topics to be brought up, then I will, at 8:29, we'll call this meeting to a close. We're adjourned.
Thank you for tuning in
Thank you,
to
everybody.
Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.